Tony from the Final Cut.
And I'm Sonia.
And we wanted to tell you a little bit about what we've learned over the last month of full-time RVing. We say full-time because we're on a 4-month trip. And it's just like living full-time in an RV.
Yeah.
So, but first of all, we wanted to give a little bit of background about each other. So, Sonia, I'll let you start off.
Oh, great. Thanks for the warning. Well, we met 8 years ago. We dated for 5 years, and then we got married.
Well, first of all, we met through some mutual friends, and I pulled up to her house on a motorcycle. We'd texted a little bit beforehand, and kind of knew a little bit about each other, but not a whole lot. And anyway, I pulled up on a motorcycle in her driveway, and she hopped on the back and took off, and I said, "Oh, this is the girl."
Well, I remember the first time we texted for a few days before we actually met in person, and you said in one of those texts, "Have you ever ridden on the back of a Harley?" And I will just never forget that. It just struck me as something I wanted to do, and which eventually led to learning how to ride my own bike and getting my own bike. And so now we both have our bikes, and we love to ride.
We're both a little adventurous, and that's what attracted me to Sonia to begin with, was her sense of adventure. And it has been an adventure ever since.
Well, I hope you mean that in a good way.
Yes, it's been great. You couldn't ask for a better woman.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
I can lie good too.
He brings out the adventurous side in me. There's some things that he wants to do adventure-wise that I'm like, no, and no. But if he wants to do it, I'll go and watch, and I'll be on the sidelines praying. When we first met, we both talked about what we wanted to do in life, especially after we retired, and we both discovered that it had always been a goal for both of us that after retirement we wanted to buy an RV and travel and see the United States. So once we discovered we both had the same life goals, we had that in common, and that's what we've worked towards ever since then. And there were a lot of times when we didn't think that, that would be possible, or I got cold feet, or I just didn't think it would happen, and we just said it's going to happen, and we just made it happen. So if you're thinking about doing it, don't let all the
negativity bring you down.
Right.
Just go for it.
Just go for it. Exactly. You don't have to there is no perfect RV. Just make a list of what you want in your RV and look for the closest thing that you can get. And I'm not saying to settle. You should never settle for anything. But there's no RV out there that's going to have every single thing on your wish list. So just get the closest you can
They're
find.
not all perfect.
Right.
And believe me, RVs are not perfect. We have a lot of little things that we have to work on. There's
always maintenance.
Always some type of maintenance that you have to do. But you have that in the home also. It's just not that you're on the road when it happens.
Your home is bouncing down the road, and
it's like a tornado.
Going hundreds of miles.
A tornado with an earthquake under it.
And we have been through some extreme weather conditions. We have been through some windstorms. We have been through heavy rain.
Snow,
very hot sun. I mean, we've experienced it all in the last month and a half that we've been on the road.
Yes, we have.
Oh, my goodness.
It's been an experience.
The windstorms are the scariest.
The only thing negative is probably being on the road is you miss family. and friends. I miss my kids, miss my grandkids, and I know Sonia misses her two boys, and her mom, and it gets kind of tough, but that's just a little bit of time. We'll get back home, we'll get to see them, but you do get homesick every once in a while.
Definitely. That was probably the hardest thing, was leaving the family there.
Yeah.
Wish we could have brought everyone, but
yeah,
just
an
couldn't.
RV is kind of hard to bring the whole family.
We did bring our puppy dogs, though. That brings us to the first thing that we have learned being on the road for a month and a half. Our dachshund, she's 12 years old. Her name is Breezy, and she had, before we left, we took her to the vet to have both of our dogs checked out. And Breezy was diagnosed with a slight heart murmur. Well, up and down in all these altitudes, and
higher elevations
right.
brings on a lot of underlying conditions. Breezy's heart murmur increased. It was more than moderate, and she also has congestive heart failure. So we didn't find that out until we had been in higher elevations, and we had to take her to the vet. And
her breathing got really fast, and you could feel, when you picked her up, you could feel her heart beating, and you could feel that murmur. And it was a really scary feeling, and we found an emergency vet to take her to, and they checked her out and gave her some medicine, and she is doing better now. She's still not 100%. But
the meds were for the congestive heart failure. She had a lot of fluid around her lungs and her heart, and that caused her to have some really labored breathing, and just made her so tired and sluggish.
And she didn't want to eat.
And she didn't want to eat.
She's still not back 100% with her eating, but we're working on it. We're trying to get her to eat more and help get her strength back. But she is feeling a little bit better.
But you have to adjust, and all of these things that happen to you on the road could happen at home also. So it's just life, and don't let anything stop you. You just keep on going.
Yeah, it made it a little bit harder being on the road, and having, because we didn't know where any vets were, or what, which ones would do an emergency visit or whatever. So we just got on the phone and called around, and I think the first one we called actually did the emergency visit, but that was kind of an unexpected expense and an unexpected scare. But we got through it, and a few sleepless nights, but that's okay. We would have probably had those sleepless nights at home too if we'd been there. So you just can't let anything get in the way of what your goals are in life.
That's right.
It's as simple as that. But back to the kids. Yes, we missed all of our kids and grandkids. When we met, Tony had 4 adult kids, and I had 2 that were almost adults. They were young adults. They're both college age now. But we miss them a lot.
I'm a retired barber, as you can tell with all this long hair and beard.
You just didn't want to have to deal with it anymore, huh?
I'm just really rebellious now. So I have a son who has taken over business, and he's doing a fabulous job. He's a hairstylist, and his wife, and they have 2 small sons, and they're working really hard to provide for them. And
they both are very talented.
Very talented.
Very
people.
talented. It's in their blood.
Yeah. And I have another son who does some online work. I think he's working for a tax company, and him and his wife, they have pretty much grown children. One's in the Air Force, and one's getting close to graduating from high school, and another one just starting high school. But I'm really proud of them. They've done well. I have a son who's disabled, and he's at home taking care of my property, and I want to thank him for that. That's really enabled us.
He's taking care of our chickens.
That's
We have
really
5
enabled
chickens.
us to be out here on the road. And then I have a daughter who lives in Colorado Springs, and she just had 2 children. The youngest is about 3 months, and her and her husband.
And B is about a little over a year old now.
Yes, V's a little over a year, and they're just wonderful children. And they're talking about moving back to South Mississippi, and can't wait, because that way I'll have all my kids at home.
Yes.
For when I come home. I'm being a little selfish. Okay, so you want to tell a little bit about your 2 boys?
Yes.
They're very smart.
Yes, they are. Both of my boys live in Starkville. They were both going to MSU. Cody is taking a semester or 2 off so he can try to figure out what he wants to do in his life. And Spencer he had already decided what he wanted to do, so he just finished up his first year of college. Cody has a part-time job that he loves, and Spencer is home for the summer, but he'll be going back in August. So hopefully I will get to see both of them when we get home towards the end of July. If we have to, we'll just stop in Starkville on the way home.
Yeah, I think Spencer's time is spent a lot with his sweetheart that he's had since high school.
Yes.
And she's a sweet girl, too.
She goes to MSU as well. They both go there. And Cody has an apartment there, and he's living his best life, and I'm very proud of both of them.
They're great kids. Love them to death. Okay, what else have we learned?
Let's see. Okay, we touched on the weather. We both learned very early on that dry climate equals extremely dry skin. We are from South Mississippi.
The humidity is about 90%
It's
most of the time,
always
and
humid.
around 90 degrees.
It's always humid there.
It's
and-
comfortable out here, here in the West, but because of the low humidity, and even when it gets really cold, you don't feel it unless the humidity's up, and we haven't seen much of that.
Right. Until today, it's more humid today, I think, than it has been the whole trip.
I think the
that we've
humidity
noticed.
is 64% here, and the temperature is about 46 degrees. It's chilly, but not like it would be at home. At home, you'd have 90% humidity, and you'd just be chilled to the bone.
Well, we had to increase our water intake. We drink a lot more water now, and we use a lot more lotion because, your skin, it just gets really dry and flaky.
And me being older and that dry skin, I look like an alligator.
Let's see. Okay, let's talk about fuel prices.
Oh, God.
When we were budgeting for...
I just get sick at my stomach.
When we were budgeting for this trip, we took an average of what the fuel prices were at the time. And we knew that they would increase some, but...
We set it at $5 a gallon, but we've seen as much as $6.72 in California. And we didn't buy any in California, thank goodness, but it's unbelievable.
It's crazy how expensive gas is. And we have a GMC Sierra 3500 HD. So we have a big gas tank. I think it's 36 gallons.
33 gallon
diesel tank. So it takes $150 to $180 to fill it up. So we've learned just stopping overnight and traveling every single day is not conducive to these fuel prices.
Yeah, it's best to go somewhere and stay for at least 2 or 3 days before you have to fill up again. That way you can enjoy it a little better. When you see everything leaving your pocketbook and going in your fuel tank, it's not too fun.
Yeah, we've been trying to eat more at home, like, go and buy a few groceries and stretch them out as long as you can, rather than, we still go and eat out every once in a while if we see a place that we just really want to try, but we try to save money other ways because we know that most of our money is going to go to gas.
Yeah, when we go to eat, we try to be on a budget with that. We don't buy the most expensive thing on the menu, and but we still want to be able to go out and enjoy and
try different places
things
and all that. In addition to diesel fuel for the truck, we also have to have propane that'll run the furnace on these cold nights and cold mornings. We have to turn the furnace on. And we
have
also
to have fuel for the generator.
Fuel for the generator, yes.
Whenever we're boondocking, and then I have to get out in the middle of the night and fill the tank up
when it's freezing cold or in a windstorm or
so
whatever.
We want to keep it going so it'll keep our batteries up and we can keep our refrigerator going.
Okay. Another way that we are trying to save a few pennies on fuel is we use different apps. We use the Gas Buddy app. We have a TDS card, which saves you a little bit of money at truck stops, and it takes it right out of your debit. It's like a debit card.
It's a debit card.
And it knocks a few cents off each gallon.
As much as 50 to 60 cents off a gallon.
Yeah.
Which they up those prices at the truck stops. But but if you have that TDS card, you can get down around what it is elsewhere, and maybe sometimes a little cheaper. But
and when you go through the truck lanes, it pumps the diesel a lot faster.
Yeah, you've got a bigger nozzle, and it pumps it in there fast, and you're in and out. You're not in the way of those truckers. Believe me, you're not there that long.
And a lot of times if you use your debit card, and I believe some credit cards as well, in a regular car lane, it'll put a hold on your account, especially your bank account. You won't be able to use your card anywhere else until that hold comes off. So, and you also, or I think you can go inside and do your card without it putting a hold on there. But just to save having to go inside and for it to not put a hold on your card, this TDS card works very well. But it only works at some truck stops. So that's what the app
works at most of your Loves and your TA stations, and some of the other truck stops. But all of your Loves and all of your TAs take the TDS card.
And we have some rewards credit cards as well, that if we can't use the TDS card, or we don't want to use our debit card or whatever, we have some rewards credit cards. So it doesn't help a whole lot, but
every little penny helps.
Exactly. Okay. We mentioned that we are on a 4-month trip. It's going to be at least 4 months. When we first started planning this out, we knew kind of where we wanted to go, so we used a couple of apps to help plan our trip. And we knew that we wanted to be somewhere to get set up by around 3 o'clock that day, because we didn't want it to be dark when we start setting up or finish setting up.
Right.
So we would, if we were going to be on the road more than around 4 hours a day, we would try to plan another stop along the way, an overnight stop. Well, now we have discovered that if you have a lot of overnight stops, that's just that many more setups and teardowns that you have to do.
And it gets pretty grueling. It's nerve-wracking. The hooking up and the setting up, and then the re-hooking up, and
and that's more wear and tear on your hoses and your connections and your electrical outlets and all of that stuff. And sometimes it's just not worth it.
It's better to see if you can find something that you're going to be there for at least 2 days. I just feel like pull in to a place at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you set up, and you're up and out of there by 10 o'clock the next morning. That's
it
a lot
wears
of work.
you out. You're already tired from being, driving and being in the truck for several hours. So, yeah, we've learned that when we start planning the last part of our trip, we're probably not going to do just an overnight stay unless we have to. So it just wears you out.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
one thing that I have learned is, I know at home we depended on the internet a lot. We depended on the internet to stream TV shows. We never really watched regular cable TV anymore. We would stream shows, or we would play on our phones or scroll Facebook, or
We would get a lot of our information off the internet.
we watched YouTube videos a lot, learning how to do all this setup and everything.
It's like the maps and things. I want to get an atlas, a road atlas, so that I can plan things out. I can see it better that way. But when you're in an area like we are right now, we have very, very poor internet reception, and with that, I can't even look at the maps. You can't pull them up because I don't have a paper map. And
We've been to several stores looking for paper maps, but they have maps of the area that you're in, but we want something of like either the whole United States or at least this section.
And that way I can kind of see which direction we want to go, and then we can look in those areas that the route we want to take, and see if there are any attractions that we want to see there. Any national parks, or if there are any...
And we have apps for that, but we can't look at any of that with no internet.
That's right. What did we do without our cell phones back 20 years ago?
Exactly. But I mean, there's so many things you don't really think about. Like, we can't even figure out where to go. If we do want to go out to eat, we can't see where to go because we have no service on our phones to, to find these places. Now, we do have our Garmin GPS. I think it works through satellite, but, it's hard to depend on that kind of stuff.
And the Garmin will get you where you're going most of the time, but sometimes that thing does not read right.
Right.
And you need to be able to look at a map and say, oh, no, this is going to take us the wrong direction. It has led us down the wrong direction a couple of times.
Yes. But yeah, you do need to plan ahead. If you are a good planner, then you will probably enjoy camping. I am organized, but I'm not very good at planning ahead. I had kind of just gotten in the mode of just, go with the flow. But when you are RVing, you really have to plan ahead. You have to know when you're going to not have certain kinds of hookups. If you're not going to have a water hookup, you've got to make sure you have fresh water in your freshwater tank. If you're going to have a dump station rather than being able to hook up your sewer hose, you need to know and plan ahead for that kind of thing.
And another thing,
and boondocking, you definitely have to plan ahead for boondocking.
absolutely. Another thing, if you are not mechanically inclined and you don't know how to work on things, you better have a good pocketbook, because it costs money to get these guys to come out and work on your RV. One thing the good Lord blessed me with is a mechanical mind. I was able to do lots of work on this RV myself. And if I didn't quite know how to do it, I'd look it up on YouTube. And I would eventually figure it out. We've had several little things like with our inverter and the plumbing and things like that, the slide outs. I've had to figure all that stuff out myself, and I got it done. But
he's replaced the 2 gearboxes of the 3 on the RV so far, and we have the extra gearbox for when the 3rd one goes out.
But
thank goodness he can replace those.
Every time you call a tech out, you can say bare minimum $100. I mean, that's
probably just to come out
out and look
what's going on. Yeah.
So.
And then you probably have to pay an hourly rate on top of that.
Absolutely.
So, yes, I'm very fortunate that he is mechanically inclined. I can stand there and hand him tools, and that's about it for me. But, yes, we've been fortunate in that aspect. Now, let's talk about the car wash, the rig wash.
Oh, wow. That was awesome.
Okay, first of all, the loneliest highway, America's loneliest highway. It goes from one side of Nevada to the other.
And we drove along that, and all of a sudden, we see these creatures crawling across the road.
I noticed something black on the road, and it was hopping. It wasn't moving out of the way. You were running over a lot of them, and it was for a very long stretch. I would probably say miles.
Oh, at least miles, 30 miles or more.
Of these little creatures hopping around in the road.
They were Mormon crickets.
So we Googled it. We actually got enough service to be able to Google to find out what, and I found one article on it.
And they Mormon crickets. Covered the front of our RV.
They were all over the truck.
They covered our tires. They covered the truck.
Yeah, we learned more about them than we ever wanted to know.
Nasty.
They're oily and stinky. We didn't try to smell them, but the article said they were oily and stinky.
Then we were driving along the interstate, and we see a billboard, Blue Beacon Car Wash, and it was
for big rigs and
RVs.
So we went and got in line. We didn't really care how much it cost at that point. We just wanted them all. They were all over the truck, the tires, the mud flaps, the fenders. They were all over the RV. The little thing that sticks out for the propane attachment, they were all over that. The steps that were folded up under the door, they had all those squish bugs on them. It was disgusting. I took pictures and video of that, and I'll show you a little clip, but it was gross.
Well, it has a little protein.
Oh, gosh. So anyway, that was disgusting, and we knew we had to get it off. And we had already been in a couple of windstorms anyway, and and bug guts were already on the top of the RV, the front, the nose, I guess you would call it. So we already wanted to get everything washed and cleaned up. But then when we went through those crickets, we knew we had to do something. So we got in line. It went pretty fast. I think all total, we were there maybe 45 minutes to an hour. We got there at a good time, that's for sure. We were behind about 3 or 4 other big rigs. But they had 2 lines going, and once you got inside where they were washing everything, there was lots of guys there that were doing their part. They each had their own little job of whatever to clean, and then they had guys that came after they had cleaned everything. They had flashlights, and they were shining it in all the little crevices and pointing out, if they missed anything or whatever, and they'd come back and get those areas and got it all cleaned up.
It was $50.
To do the truck and the RV.
That was the best $50 I ever spent.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't have wanted to have to scrub all that down by myself.
Oh my gosh. It was worth that and more to get all those bugs off.
Absolutely.
And like I said, they did the truck and the RV for $50. It was wonderful. Very, very well worth it. I was expecting it to be at least $100,
Oh, yeah.
if not more. And I was expecting it to take longer as well. We were already on our way to the next stop, the next campsite, and to be in and out of there in under an hour, it was just amazing. And they did a great job. So I highly recommend it. If you ever see Blue Beacon, pull over and let them wash your rig.
One thing that we found is we've met people in the RV sites that are so nice. They're really helpful. They're ready to share tips with you, and they gather information from you. So we try to help each other out here. It's not just you're on your own the whole time you're gone. You do have people that care.
Yes. I would like to say thanks to our very first stop on this trip. We met a guy named Todd.
Yes,
and
I don't know Todd's last name, but,
yeah.
but Todd was really great. That was in Starkville.
Yes.
That was our very first stop, and we were having trouble with our converter on the rig. It wasn't putting a charge out, not like it should, and he alerted me to that fact, and he happened to have a converter exactly like the one that we had on our rig that he had taken off because he had changed it over to solar, and he had lithium batteries, and he needed a different type of converter, but he kept the old one, and
because it was still good.
It was still good, and he gave it to me.
He was an electrician, first of all, so he knew, about the electrical side of the RV, and he got to talking to Tony, and they discovered that our converter was bad, and he said, well, here, I happen to have an extra one right here that I'm not using, so you take it, and maybe it'll help you. So we really appreciate Todd helping us, and if we ever get the opportunity, we will pay it forward for sure.
Absolutely.
And we were at a campsite at Green River, which is near Moab, Utah. And our neighbors, we only had one picnic table between our two RVs, so we shared it. They were already using it, and they let us, use it a few times. And so they shared their picnic table, and we both shared tips and tricks with each other. They had a clogged black tank, and Tony told the guy, it was Stephen and Evie. Tony told Stephen what he had done to unclog our black tank when we had a clog before, and he told us later that he tried it and that it worked for him.
And he gave me a tip. I told him that the fuse in our truck that supplied power to our trailer was constantly blowing.
Like at every stop, we were blowing a fuse in the truck.
And it was running my batteries down in the house because of the refrigerator. And he told me, he said, look, I've heard that people who take and hook it up while it's still hooked to
while the truck's running.
While the truck is running, or while the RV is still hooked to shore power, it will blow that fuse in the truck. So I started not putting our 12-pin connector in until the truck was off and the house power was disconnected from the trailer, and
so
I haven't blown a fuse since.
So you disconnect the shore power from the RV
and
you turn the truck off
and
before
then
you plug in.
Then you plug in your 12-pin connector. When you do that, you don't have a problem with the fuse blowing.
So that saved a lot of headache and expense and worrying. Why are we blowing a fuse at every single stop and having to go and stock up on these $5 fuses because we're blowing one at every stop? Well, now we don't have that problem anymore just because of his one tip has helped us out tremendously.
That and the help from our good Lord watching over us and guiding us in all our steps. He puts these people in place, I do believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
definitely.
I think that everything's going to run smoothly from here on. And I'm not saying we're not going to get into some rough spots, but with the good Lord's help, we'll get through it. I mean, we always have, and he's always come through for us.
Yes, for sure.
All right, guys. I guess that'll wrap it up. Anything else you want to say, Sonia?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Like I said, if you are wanting to do this kind of life, don't let anything stop you. Just figure it out and get it done.
Okay, just a reminder to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and hit that notification bell for more videos from us.
Yes. Have a good day, guys.